Hi everyone, very good afternoon. Welcome to our afternoon class on reading comprehension. I hope you are doing well and you all are solving reading comprehension of variety. If you are solving disparate sort of questions, you are reading a very diverse range of editorials and articles from various journals, newspapers, and magazines. If you're not doing it, please start it right away. Please start following Just Cat channel. You will get everyday update on reading comprehension specific at 2 p.m. every day. Today we got a little late because of some technical glitch. Sorry for that. We will sure that it doesn't happen again. And uh, we go live every day at 9 a.m. and we talk about basics of English language, give you confidence, grammar, and vocabulary. At the same time, we discuss verbal ability in 9 a.m. class as well. So it's a mix of concepts and relevant questions. Every day we solve CAT questions in 9 class. So this is what we offer at Just Cat in sort of free of cost model at YouTube. Should you like to so my name is Anupam for the record. Don't know me. If you want to stay in touch and if you want some really privileged good quality material specifically designed to help you to excel at CAT, you need to install an Academy app, go to Plus, go to CAT, and then subscribe. We have many offerings in front for you folks, but anything more than 12 months makes sense. If you look at the pricing is the best in the industry, in the test prep industry in India and abroad. Using code Saxena10, you will get 10% discount. All right. So you can infer from your own logic that if we are doing the kind of work which we're doing in this model, which we don't charge you anything, imagine the kind of quality consciousness, kind of work, efforts, and due diligence we have put in developing and putting on content which is specific to our subscriber, to our users who have subscribed to us and who paid a fee to us. So don't wait for it. You get a lot of EMI options as well on 6, 12, and 24-month subscription. Do it now. Um, so today, so every day we look at reading comprehension from a new angle. So that probably uh, some way of looking at reading comprehension will open up certain ideas in you, which will open up which will interest you reading comprehension in one way or the other, or certain tricks or techniques this will start triggering in your mind, and from there, from that point, you will start solving reading comprehensions on your own. Just a moment, I wanted to see whether it's coming all right, because yeah, it looks good. Yeah. uh, so so today we're talking about philosophical RCs based on philosophical and abstract ideas from another viewpoint, which is analogy, interpretation, direct questions, and options. So first start from analogy standpoint. Why I bring up this particular term here is that a lot of times we feel that the questions which are asked in an RC, they expect you to find the correct analogy given. There will be four options, which they will be in which parallels will be drawn to the concept or the ideas, or one of the concept or idea mentioned in the reading. You find the right one which has the same spirit, which follows the same train of logic, same approach as does the idea which it is referring to. What happens is that options will be very close. Okay, all the options will seem correct to you when you read them for the first time. If you read for the second or third time, you will find that at least one or two options you are able to eliminate. But then there will be at least one close option, which at least two options, which you will think both of them can be correct. What you have to do is you have to understand the relationship between the ideas or the entities mentioned in that idea and the entities or the things, if you put it that way in colloquial language, mentioned in the options, those two options. And wherever you think that the relationship between the entities is same, exactly same in either of the options, with respect to the idea mentioned, referring to of which it is an analogy. If the same relationship exists, there is uh, the approach in arriving at both the at both the entities is same, then you can mark that. You will find that this even the option in which you're confused, even that option is close, is not the correct one. Somewhere it has taken a liberty in it has it, because they have to make wrong question, bad options, wrong options also. So wrong options will be having some errors in them, because of which they can say that they are actually wrong options, because if there are more than one right option, more than one correct option, then it is a it will become a challenge for them. It's a wrongly framed question. A wrongly framed question goes in favor of the candidates. It flies uh, into the face of the high quality standards which B schools, premium B school test claim of and CAT claims of. So the question will be will be the options will be framed as such that of course they will look like their correct option, they will look appealing, they will draw you towards them, but they will be incorrect after you will find them incorrect after closed or a closer reading. What happens is that this kind of questions are asked in philosophical and abstract ideas based RCs, so as to sort of increase the complexity, the overall complexity of the question paper. But I assure you that if you don't spend too much time in any one RC, if you don't spend too much time on one particular question, try and create a framework or a structure of all the paragraphs or the ideas present, and then you take a call on the options, and you to them that which of them matches to the options present. That will be the best. Then your accuracy will be very high. Again, understanding the central idea or the primary purpose, understanding the key ideas mentioned in a passage is very. Next comes interpretation. Interpretation holds the key, because a lot of questions which come in data in philosophical and abstract RCs, ideas based, are interpretation based, which the the some sort of an interpretation has to happen from the candidate's end. The candidate has to interpret a certain idea or ideas mentioned in the passage somewhere. uh, and the again, the options will be very close options, or look correct to you, but um, they will be again, there'll be a battle of two, battle of the best of the two, or the better of the two, which will be the last battle in marking, where you mark the right option. Again, same thing applies, that uh, that somewhere same techniques which are used to create bad options, For example, diluting an idea from its from what it was present or what was the appearance perception of it in the passage to the or blowing a certain idea out of proportion using adjectives and adverbs which either dilutes uh, the force of the idea present or it sort of colors it it gives it an entirely different flavor using certain adjectives and adverbs to do so, providing half correct and half right option, providing half correct and half irrelevant option, providing options which are completely irrelevant, uh, providing options which are half correct but they are relevant to the passage but they're irrelevant to the question present there, that is relevant to some other part of the passage, incorrect but again relevant to some other part of the passage. This way there is so in this way the interpretation questions uh, will also be will also try to confuse you. Then again the ability of understanding the spirit, making summary notes, understanding the language, flow of ideas, the structure, again all this will help you in marking the. Remember, we have discussed about uh, how to find central idea, how to find primary purpose. Um, what is the? You will go to the previous videos of mine. We've discussed all this. Okay? So, so finding it is again it is finding the central idea, primary purpose. All this is very very important. Now, again comes to what do we do in direct question, the direct database question. uh, you have to just find the right line. If you find the right the correct line, you have won half the war is won for you. But again options will again try to confuse you, so you should have understood the information given there correct, should not add your own colors or your own biases or your own judgment to the information. Again, I'll say that in philosophical RCs, direct questions are asked. 4 questions are asked, 2 questions can be direct. So, for the same reason I said that getting afraid of abstract and philosophical RCs is not a correct is strategy. What one must do is that one must try and solve uh, as many philosophical and abstract RCs as present as possible, basically, and one must try and you know uh, because a lot of questions which are asked, they are direct questions, they are direct database, which just by finding the right line and understanding it correctly and then coming to the question comes options. Options can also so how options, why do you have to be sort of a little wary and a little more cautious when you're solving an philosophical that uh, that the um, options in philosophical RCs are even more trickier, or they can be even more troublesome because they can be because remember when we done that how to find bad options, one class which we done, we discussed about how do the exam paper setter they create bad options. wrong option, that you get caught in, you get sucked into, get you tend to mark those, tend to get attracted by those wrong options. One technique which they use is that they use similar words, they use synonyms, they use half relevant, half irrelevant, half correct, half incorrect data. Some data is from is both the two piece. The option is a two-piece one. There are two parts of an option. One part of the option is correct, it is relevant. The other part is not. One part is correct, relevant. One part is correct from the passage standpoint, but it refers to a different part of the these permutation combinations using a single word to either reduce or enhance uh, a certain point in a way that it becomes that the meaning changes completely from what it was intended to. These things one has to be. So let's come to the uh, actual trying to actually solve the question. This basically I have put the. So let's read it. It says that the base of objective. So first read the questions first. Analyze the question, the following passage, and provide appropriate answers for question 20. The base of objectivism, according to A and Rand, is existence exists, and the act of grasping that state lies two corollary axioms that something exists which one perceives, and that one exists possessing consciousness being the faculty being that project. That at the base of objectivism, the base of knowledge, it rests on two axioms. Axioms are rules, principles. Other, that is, it's that there is existence and there is awareness of that existence. There is information or consciousness of that of that existence. Next comes existence and consciousness are facts implicit in every perception. That existence and consciousness of it are facts implicit in every perception. So this is something. Now you look at the terminology used: existence, objectivism, corollary, axioms, consciousness being the faculty of perception. So in this way, using such terms which we don't use on a day-to-day basis, or the kind of terms which most of the caretakers might not be familiar with, they try and create trouble for you. In a way, passage is not very difficult to understand, but just because the certain terminology is that, it'll you in first reading. Just is very simple that there are two basic ground rules or principles. One is existence and other is its awareness, consciousness. Existence and consciousness are facts implicit in every perception. Same thing is repeating again and again. Facts, what they've said in the first paragraph, again they're repeating it again in every perception. They are the base of all knowledge and precondition of proof. They're again repeating the same story again and again in another word. Knowledge presupposes something to know and someone to know. Again, same thing they're repeating. Knowledge presupposes something to know and someone to know. Right? Then comes these are the absolutes which cannot be questioned or escaped. Every human utterance, including the denial of these axioms, implies that user acceptance. The same thing they're saying again and again, that whatever logic or whatever knowledge or whatever, knowledge and proof, precondition of proof and human utterances, and even if we deny them, we will have to use these concepts, these two basic ground rules or principles, that is of existence and its awareness is consciousness. This thing they're repeating in several ways. If you read it, it is nothing but just a repetition of using too many words which mean the same, which mean the same, but they have been written in different ways. That is all what is happening here. Third axiom at the base of the knowledge, axiom rule, Aristotle's words of being qua being is a law of identity. So now they're saying that there are two things. One is the existence and its awareness. Then starting third axiom to it, which is the base of the knowledge. Again, the base of the knowledge and the foundation of logic and foundation of perception, implicit and same terminology will repeat here again. Lot of synonyms have been used to confine to make something which can be presented in a very simple manner. This is why they brought this passage for you. Why they put so much of stake on such a small uh, passage here, because to say one simple thing they have taken so many words, right? If we see it from a very corporate email or a very email writing skills or business language, this kind of English will be heavily discouraged, will be actually criticized. But since it belongs to a certain branch of knowledge which people don't read in general or rarely read, very few people read, and the language used here, the the structure of this passage is such that it can pose a challenge to a normal person who is tries to understand things in a very simple manner. So much of complexity will makes the person confused. Ki, why is this written in such a, and the thing is that it is written in such a manner to test your patience, in a high pressure situation, to test that whether can you stay calm, can you just make short notes, can you just see what they're saying and be done with it. So this law defines the essence of existence. To be is to be something. A thing is what it is, and leads to the fundamental principle of all the action, the law of causality. The law of causality says that a thing's action are determined not by chance but by its. I think that the third idea is that the defines the sense of existence. To be is to be something. A thing is what it is. Because existence is that what be something. So being is actually the way being, and the hence and hence the law of causality states that a thing's actions are determined not by chance but by its nature. Next comes, it is important to observe the interrelation of these axioms, uh, of these three axioms. Existence is the first axiom. The universe exists independent of consciousness. That exists first axiom. Universe exists. So first thing is that, remember, first thing was what? Existence. Then second was consciousness. Third was being. Is to be something. First here is, so in that way it was in 1 to 3. Here first comes first. Existence is the first axiom. Universe exists independent of consciousness. This is the number 3 which has come, which was just said in the paragraph before it. Here it comes next. Second, man is able to adapt his background to his own requirement, but nature to be commanded once is begun. There is no mental process that can change the laws of nature or erase facts. Okay? Function of consciousness is not to create reality but to apprehend. Next comes, so here they're talking about what is the objective. So first is existence, then there is universe which exists independent of consciousness. Third point is that the third way to look at it is that that they uh, that the third thing is consciousness is not to create reality but to apprehend it, but to understand it as it is. Existence, then then there is uh, then there is something which is our universe. There's something there is universe. And third thing is that there is this consciousness which is there to create the reality of existence and the universe. And it brings another idea that man adapts to his own requirements. Nature is to be commanded, must be obeyed. So it says that function of consciousness is not to create reality but to apprehend it, to understand it. Consciousness is identity, consciousness is existence. It exists some, that is your I. Remember who you are. He is to be something. And when you become aware of it, you it is a process of identification. It's a process of awareness. It's a process of knowledge. So question number 28 says, which of the following is definitely correct? A. Only what can be perceived exists. All what exists it perceives. Sorry, what exists is nothing of this sort was said. All that exists does not have consciousness. The consciousness makes perception of being. Yeah, that consciousness makes perception of being possible. Go to the first paragraph and you read the first last line, that consciousness being the faculty of perceiving that which something exists which one perceives, and that one exists possesses consciousness. Consciousness is the faculty of perceiving which when says that something to be known and someone to know are the conditio sine qua non for existence. This is completely tenuous. It is irrelevant to is the. Now look at the options which they have made here. A and B. Only what can be perceived exists. Nothing of this sort was said. What exists is perceived. It was nowhere mentioned. It was said that there are that the basic framework of knowledge, basic framework of all the logic and all the other things is existence and its awareness. Then the third came that the law of identity, that if to be something is to be is to be something. So that is how it is. So B option is the correct option. All that exists does not have consciousness. Again, it is not relevant. Which of the following is the essence of the law of cause? What is law of cause result? Remember, law of causality was that 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 be some that to be is to be something. For exist, being something uh, to be something is to be something. No, sorry, my bad. To my bad. Sorry. Law of causality was different. What I'm talking is law of identity. Law of causality was the last line in the second paragraph. Sorry, my bad. The law of causality says that a thing's actions are determined not by chance but by its nature, by what it is. The thing's actions are not determined by not by chance but by its nature, by what it is. And it is derived from the idea that the law of identity to be is to be something that results in the law of causality. To be something is to be something, being qua being. B, wishing to become something else denies the nature of that being. The law of identity is the same as law of causality. So all these options look correct. They all look very interesting, very proper. Words are being used, but you see only option E is correct. Actions of being are determined by its name. All right. Actions of being are determined by its. That is the agent action. It's was there that only the nature decides the law of causality states that a thing's actions are determined not by chance but by its actions of being a determined. Essence of existence again is not relevant to the law of identity is the same as the law of causality. No, they are different. Law of identity law of identity leads to law of causality. Wishing to become something else denies the nature of that being. Again, this is incorrect. Okay? To be is to be something, being being qua being. Again, this is A is again the law of identity. It is not the law of. Only option number E is something. In B was irrelevant. C was incorrect. A was again talking about law of identity and law, not law of causality. You know, he is essence of. So again, he is the right option. 22nd, which of the following can be best captured as identity? This is the. If you see the previous two questions for all direct questions, remember we just found the right line, and then we were smart enough to avoid all those attractive looking bad options, wrong options. We just mark the right option. 22nd, which of the following can be the best captured as identity and identification? This is what I was talking to you when PPT about what analogy. There are parallel being drawn. There are that which of this is similar in nature to what we've discussed earlier. What ideas have we referred to here? Ideas are of identity and identification. Let us go back and let us read what was said of identification, identity. First it was here. Last time. Function of consciousness is not to create reality but to apprehend it. Existence is identity, and consciousness is identification. Sorry, my bad. Existence is identity, and consciousness is identity. We can also go back to the first paragraph and read it all over again so that we can get a grasp of what is existence. Existence exists, and the act of grasping that statement implies two corollary axioms: that something exists which one perceives, and that one exists possessing existence and awareness, right? Awareness or consciousness. So existence is identity. If you are something, consciousness is the identification. B. Sorry, A. College as identity, perception of cultural events as identification. Twitter as identity, perception of Twitter as identification. Government as identity and perception of taxation of citizens identity. Now, if you see government as identity and perception of taxation, if you look at this, it's a very far-fetched. It is not very absolutely relevant. If they had said something that consciousness or awareness of responsibility, consciousness or awareness of powers, still, taxation is such a narrow field of which government is just one party of, right? It is such a one of the very important aspects of how, if the government doesn't take tax, how will they manage the basic of the country? How will they bring in development? But it is again a part of the entire thing. It's not the entire thing. It doesn't define the consciousness or the awareness or the very being of the government, right? Marriage as identity and perception of children as identification. Again, children are a part of marriage. They are again irrelevant. MBA as identity and perception of campus placement as identification. Again, it's a part of it. Only option B is good enough. Twitter as identity and perception of Twitter as identification. Even A, college as identity, perception of college events is identification. Again, this is the part, just a small part of it. If you are something, and the awareness of it, the consciousness is in the Twitter as identity, perception of as that makes the 23rd, author would interpret Francis Bacon's nature to be commanded must be obeyed. Nature to be commanded must be obeyed as. What is the interpretation? Interpretation is this. How did he interpret it? Option number A. Reality should not be modified or escaped but faced. Yeah, this is quite correct, because if you read it, last paragraph, man is able to adapt his background to his own requirement, but nature to be commanded must be obeyed. There is no mental process that can change the laws of nature or erase facts. Function of consciousness is not to create reality but to apprehend. There is no mental process that can change the laws of nature. That's function of consciousness. It's not to change the reality but to understand it what it is. Reality should not be modified or escaped but faced. This is an interpretation of it. B. Man's existence depends on nature's whim. No, it is not correct. Essentially and objectively, nature is superior to it. Also not said. Obstacles are better circumvented than confronted. This is again what I said. For channeling nature, one must first comply with it. This is also to some extent very appealing, but again, first of all, we do not know whether first uh, uh, complying is required or for channeling is required, or whether it should sort of uh, be the other way around, or it should happen parallelly. We don't know, first of all. Nature to be commanded must be obeyed. Maybe it happens at the same time. But what is saying is that how would how author has interpreted that reference, you will again have to go back and look in the passage itself. Because author mentioned nature to be commanded must be obeyed, and then gave that the work of the consciousness will help us interpret the how the reality is, not modify it. Like what we say in certain uh, this is again outside knowledge, but if you look at the philosophy of certain schools of thought, especially Eastern ones, they they emphasize on seeing things as they are and not attaching our own biases. Reality should be modified, not is, but this is the. So I hope these are helpful for you. That is all for now. Let's meet tomorrow. Let's do some good quality verbal. Yes, and very much. This is our RC class. We'll go as well for Unacademy. You can go to live classes, interact with educator. You can polls, bowl tests, live doubt sessions. Use my code. Right? You can look at the quality of work which we can obviously material side of very high much.